creating a template. Open up console 1. Browse the eDirectory tree until you find the container you would like to create the template. For example, FreeNWA2 in the Salt Lake City organizational unit. Find the Create New Object button on the top of the console 1 toolbar. Click, select the template object. Click OK, give it a name, for example TAFE SA underscore user. For instance, a template used to create new users at TAFE SA. Currently it is an empty template with no information configured. Double click to open up the properties, give it some information. For example, the title might be student. The information located here will be passed on to any users created with this template. Enter some information just to show this later. Description: IT studies student. You'll notice that next to the menu item there's a little arrow. This actually means there are more items below. Click on the arrow, find environment, and this is where we configure the home directory path for any users created with this template. Click on this button, which is the browse button. Browse to the location of DA1 data, which is a volume. There is a folder called homes already created from an earlier step, and this is where the home directories of users will be stored. So select that folder and click OK. Other things we can configure in the template are restrictions. For example, password restrictions. This first option allows the user themselves to change their passwords. By unchecking this, you will prevent the user from changing their own passwords. You might want this in a situation where there's a temporary user that lots of users share. In this case, if one user changes the password, other users may be affected. But in general, a user should be allowed to change their password. The next checkbox is whether a user needs a password or not. Obviously, in a secure network, every user should have a password. This number here specifies the minimum length of a password, meaning that their password must be a minimum of 5 characters in this instance, but let's change it to 8. The longer the password, the harder it is to guess or crack. The shorter the password, the easier it is to guess or crack. However, if it's too long, users will tend to forget their passwords and write them down, which defeats the purpose of having a secure password. The next checkbox is force periodic change of password, meaning that every 40 days at the moment, the user will be forced to change their password. Again, if it's too short, it would be very annoying for users. If it's too long, it might be too long a period and the password might be given out accidentally, typed in clear text, or something else might happen. So let's set it to something like 90 days, which is about 3 months, which is a reasonable time so users don't get too annoyed, and it's short enough so that any passwords that are accidentally given out will change. This button allows us to set a expiry date of the password. We may want to do this if we create a whole batch of new users and we want the users to change their passwords immediately. For example, if we force the change to be today, then next time the users must change their passwords before they can log in again. This next checkbox is require a unique password. If we check this, it means that the passwords used in the previous sessions will not be active if changed, meaning that you cannot use any passwords you've used before. It remembers up to 16 passwords, meaning that it will be 16 times before you can use the same passwords again. This grace login allows the users to log in a certain amount of times once their password has expired. For instance, right now it's set to 6, meaning that they have 6 chances to change their password before they are locked out. So the next time they log in, they'll be asked to change their password. If they don't, this will tick down from 6 to 5 and so on until it gets to 0, and then after that their passwords are expired. Again, on the menu item there's a little arrow, meaning that we can actually click on it and look at something else. For instance, login restrictions. This checkbox is once checked, disables the user account, meaning that the user is locked out and can't log into the network. By unchecking it, their account is enabled and can be used normally. Once a user leaves the company, their account should be disabled initially and then deleted after a period of time has expired. This next checkbox is to set an expiration date on a user account. For instance, students at TAFE study semester by semester, meaning that if they paid for the first semester, we should set an expiry date for the end of the semester on June 30th, for example. Meaning that once I've done this, I don't have to worry about manually disabling their account once the semester is finished. I just have to set and forget, and the accounts will be disabled automatically. Next checkbox is limit concurrent connections, meaning that how many times can a user log into the network. So from how many machines can a user log in to the network. At the moment, there's a maximum of 1 concurrent connection, meaning that a user can only log in from 1 machine. This is, in an ideal world, this would be the amount that a normal user would need, because in an ideal world there are no such things as blackouts, there's no such things as operating system crashes. But however, in the real world, we like to give them at least 2, so that if the power goes out or the machine crashes and for whatever reason that they don't log out correctly, that they can still log back in once they restart their machine. If, however, a person needs to log in several more times to do their job, for example, a lecturer may need to log in students who do not have accounts at the start of semesters, may get more logins. For example, for a lecturer who can log in a whole class of students, they might be given 20 concurrent logins so that 20 students can be logged in with their temporary account. But for average user, 2 is recommended. Again, click on the drop down arrow, select time restrictions. This is where we can set the times a person can log in. At the moment, you'll notice it's all white, meaning that they can log in anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So by default, white means can log in, which means that if we change it, for example, for a TAFE student, they will not log in on Sundays, they will not log in on Saturdays, they will not log in before 9 AM, they will not log in after 9 PM, leaving us with this white area where they can log in, which is Mondays to Fridays, 9 AM to 9 PM. All other times are in grey, which means they are unable to log into the network. Next is address restrictions. This is where we can actually add a single IP address, for example, .10.200.200.102. So that would mean that the user would only be able to log in from this one workstation only. This might be done in a internet cafe where only one computer is allowed for anonymous login, or a login for a temporary user such as a internet cafe visitor, and we would not want them to log into any other computers in the facilities. We can also change this to a network ID, meaning that they can log in from any computer that's plugged into that particular network. So again, you might have a student network and a lecturer's network. You might not want the students to be able to log in onto the lecturer's machines. We won't configure this today, as we might lock ourselves out if the IP address is incorrect compared to our workstation IP address. So I'll click cancel. Besides that, we can also look at memberships. If you notice that we created a students group in the earliest session, if we want the users created with this template to be members of that students group, we can actually add the students group right now by actually clicking add, selecting the group we want to add the users to, click OK. This means that once the user is created with this template, they will be automatically put as a member of the students group. There's many other tabs we can look at as well, but for today we'll leave them alone. But later on in this subject we'll look at security equal to me and also login scripts. So let's click OK to create that template. Now this template has been created with some information to be passed on. Let's use this template to create a new user. So again, select the container where you want to create the user, for example FreeNWA2. Click on the new user button. This time before we do anything, we'll check the checkbox which says use template. We'll click on the browse button to find the template we want to use. Click OK. Now we'll give the user a name, for example Erfel Evans. You'll notice that Erfel also becomes the user ID as shown here. You might already notice that the home directory path has already been put in. Let's click OK and find out what the results. Give it a password. And you'll notice that there the user is created. But in order for this template to have done its job, we must check that the users obtained some of those information we've configured in the template. So let's double click on the user account. You see that the title, the location, the department, phone number, fax number and description are all there from the template. If we go down to environment, you'll notice this is the home directory path has been created or filled in automatically. If we look at the restrictions, you can see it's all there from what we configured earlier. Login restrictions as well as time restrictions, and finally the membership. You can see that the user is a member of that particular group. So we have confirmed that the template did work. A template is useless if you're just using it to create one user, but however if you're creating a class of users, for example 20 users, if you agree with me, it will save you plenty of time in not having to configure all those little settings that we just saw.